So thanks, Sakshi.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sakshi. Thanks, Minimon, for setting up and contextualizing today's webinar. Welcome, CTS. Welcome, Pinny, for lending your time and, most importantly, your experience, wisdom, and sharing your valuable perspective for today's discussion. And most importantly, my sincere gratitude to the respected audience, the time that they have invested in joining this session. As I begin this short note as a precursor to our webinar, I must draw the attention of all of us about how the millennials are shaping up our world. The millennials are central to the society for business and how the world and the business moves forward here on. Therefore, as we begin this webinar, we must spend a few seconds in understanding how the millennials live, think, and dream, which I must say is very, very different in certain context than what we think we identify them with. My panelists are the ones who manage these millennials at their workplaces, and they would have more informed views than I have on this aspect and how their organizations are thinking about work culture, workplace design to meet the evolving needs of these millennials who form the central core of any progressive professional organization. Now, another context which also probably would set the right precursor to this conversation is how over the last decade, forward-looking organizations are looking at space and people as strategic assets, and how workplaces, as opposed to the past, are being seen as a critical priority for every organization, where all of us are observing that it's progressively seen not as a cost center that needs to be managed and minimized, but which has got to be evolved and improved significantly. As a result, we see a trend where organizations are designing offices, and Pinny can talk about her organization, and likewise CTS can talk about his organization, as to how they're offering choice, flexibility, autonomy to keep the millennials engaged at workplaces, and how their design philosophy, the work culture, the processes and systems are keeping millennials in mind. And therefore, these places are actually enhancing the lives of the people, lives of the millennials as such, including the other employees that occupy them when they come to work. Very interestingly, I was doing a quick study a couple of weeks back from an agency called Gensler, and you will see that coming up. That 41% of the employees now say that they have a choice where they work, and especially after COVID, probably this percentage may have gone up a few notches higher than what it was earlier. 52% increase than what it was 6 years back. Okay, and 44% of the employees say that they work in a balanced workplace, which is 83% higher than the previous cycle. Now, to bring that to the context of our conversation, that to optimize performance, most organizations are addressing and bringing a balance between effectiveness and experience. And therefore, currently, you shouldn't be surprised that less than half of the workforce are operating in workplaces where there's not a very decent balance between experience and effectiveness. When workplaces, work practices, and workplace culture align, it creates a great chemistry, and a chemistry of what I call workplace experience, where the payoff is substantial, and high scores in both effectiveness and experience translate into increased employee commitment, satisfaction, and more. The result is greater engagement and better outcome, and especially the business outcome. And therefore, as I say, within our business and to everybody in the community, that I see this as a tectonic shift of what I have coined a terminology from headcounts to heartbeats. I think with that, I would now pass on uh, the, the conversation to our panelists and therefore place this question to them, um, to Pinny to begin with. That Pinny and to CTS after Pinny completed her answer. That how do you both see that technology would play a crucial role in defining the future of workplace? Over to you, Pinny.
Thank you, Parikshit. I think the video set the tone for the session. The whole world and workplace have become a dynamic platform for all of us. And really, no one can pinpoint what the future will bring. Like the pandemic comes every 100 years, as predicted by scientists. So really, the change has to be there. Are we going to stay human? Are we going to be robots? Are we going to do all our work by technology and digital transformations? What is the whole life experience going to be as we move forward? I think we are at a very interesting time where things are evolving, we are learning, and I think after that, we will be able to have definitions of what really hybrid workplace is or what hybrid work a time or zones that will translate from this. Now, what is it that the employee as a worker wants? He wants a whole life experience. To get that whole life experience, technology is your go-to tool. And we'll have to use different applications. I'll just name a few. You want to book your car, you want to book your room, your meeting room, you want everybody on the in the meeting room on a certain time. You want to book in your lunch. You want to have a plan for the day. You need some email time. And the facilities or real estate or corporate real estate teams, they want, they are going to put sensors in the building to see what place is getting utilized, how that will transform after some time. And for employees, they believe work environment reflects world-class organizations. So I think there are three top areas in workplace solution that we need to support, and technology would sort of, drive those. One is collaboration. How do you actually feel that you're collaborating? And just before the session, CT and I were talking that really through the machine, do you think that you're collaborating? But we will have to learn that, because that probably is the future. How do you bring culture through virtual platforms? How do you build a company culture? And will technology be able to support us with enough and more so that we tie ourselves together? And the employee engagement. Basically, we are a human race. We need to touch, feel, see, and be there together, to feel the warmth. I mean, people are starving for a hug. People are starving to see, others around them. So I think technology is there to stay, but at the same time, there is a lot that needs to be done and will sort of carry on. The employees today in the modern workplace look for flexibility, a balance of work and personal life. I remember times when we used to say, leave your work in office, don't bring it home. And from home, don't carry your home to the office. Those lines have merged, and there is no difference whether you're home or you're in work. You want that, everything works simultaneously. Digital transformation to support virtual work is going to be another key component which will drive us all. And different kinds of work will need different technology. So I think great time for innovation, great time for people to be thinking what kind of technology tools will apply to ABC. I'll pass it to you, CT, for your thoughts and how you think about it.
Thank you, Pinny, for that very interesting and very comprehensive summary as to what the workplace is all about and what technology can really do. So all of us know that the experience that we speak about of the workplace is not just limited to one element. There are multiple aspects and elements through the entire life cycle that makes the experience a complete, one sum. Now, as you rightly mentioned, things have evolved over the period. In the past decade or so, we have seen that larger focus and better adoption of technology has happened, albeit slow. It did not really take the speed. If you look at the larger spectrum of all the business operations, something related to people, something related to people management experience, etc., was not on the top of the list. The focus was always on getting your business operations, your finance operations, your products and R&D, etc., getting the larger share of technology and automation. Having said that, we have seen that obviously you cannot simply push only the business and the technical aspect of that completely on technology platforms and leaving behind the rest, which is the most critical component, is the people and the places they work from, which is the workplace. So we have seen that focus happening slowly in the last decade or so, which got accelerated, as Parikshit was mentioning, with the advent of the millennials at the workplace. And COVID has further enhanced that requirement, in terms of how technology can really play a vital role in enabling collaboration, productivity, and I would also add innovation, right? Because in most business requirements, in solutions, there is a need for new ideas, new thoughts, new concept to be tried out. Now, in a distributed environment as we are currently, how does that happen if the technology is not there to enable that? So overall, what we have seen, experienced, is that technology certainly plays a very key role in enabling organizational outcomes driven through the employee engagement, the experience that we can give them, employee engagement. And I think as we go forward, we will be speaking more about the experience part and how we can actually, create the technology to support that one significant element. These are my initial thoughts. Back to you, Parikshit.
Sorry. Thank you, CTS. Thank you, Pinny, for your words of wisdom. And if I can summarize, I think I was hearing you both carefully. I think there are some very similar perspectives that you both have. That there is a degree of uncertainty as we move forward. I heard Pinny say that there could be every 100 years that there is a pandemic. But with this pandemic and the way it has spanned, we really do not know whether the next one is just about a decade away, or there could be some other medical crisis, which could be global in nature, which would make us rethink of work, life, and business. So there is an uncertainty, and I think that is central to how most businesses are looking ahead. The second thing which I heard is the theme on people, and I think I'm personally very passionate about the people piece around technology. There's no technology, whether it's a platform, whether it's an application, can work without people adopting it. I think I heard both of you say people would be central. I heard the concept of culture and how culture is influencing workplaces to be more agile. The organizations to be more vibrant. I think we know that today many technologies foster culture and build on further to what we discussed. And again, taking a cue from what you saw, all of you saw, is that the global workplace is evolving. I mean, and I think I am a great believer that some of these kind of trends or technology trends that we saw in the video uh, normally is synonymous with US or Europe, but you'll see some of them happening here in India. And that's where I see that the workplace of the future is going to be extremely different. And not only because it's technology led, which the conversation is going to go, but the fact is that the way we work, the way we the work formats that the organizations are adopting are going to be very different than the past. As I was researching for this session and for a few other blogs that I was planning to script, we felt that, and we found that employees actually spend very little time in their desk for the majority of the time that they are at work. Now, this has prompted in the recent times, and this is pre-pandemic, that organizations started to look at space optimization. And because of the COVID and the pandemic, you're seeing recent trends where certain organizations have actually gone ahead and given away space. And I think certain organizations always believe that private offices were not very essential. Collaboration is more feasible in open environments, and but it continued to be there even till 2019, early 20. But we would see open offices, less of private spaces going forward. And why is this going to happen? Most organizations during the pandemic and hopefully come out of the pandemic are appreciating that remote work programs, open office plans, and assigned seating, space sharing, and other similar strategies are probably the way to go forward. And this is across the world. And as I speak to leading professionals like you and many others, I hear this again and again. In the recent times, the most successful amongst the organizations which could blend their previous strategy and the current strategy, the evolving strategy, did not only focus on reducing or optimizing the real estate cost, but they were focusing on new metrics on employee performance, employee experience, and therefore the business results. So they were kind of contextualizing this into a boardroom discussion as opposed to something which they would never talk. And a few prominent, kind of trends which I would like to share with Pinny, with the audience and CTS, is that, and which you can see on the slide that is up, that IDC, which is one of the leading organizations, they have reported that the wearable devices that we use currently are going to be up by 50% by 2023 than the current base. So huge amount of wearable device enhancement, about 37% higher than what it used to be in the last survey. 55% of the Indian population would start using smartphones by the end of this year. 90% up. It'll be 90% by 2030. So huge, kind of connectivity opportunities for the larger mass in India, a large country like India. 5G rollout, I don't have to repeat, all of you have read, we have all read, is going to accelerate adoption of and convergence of technology on mobile devices and IoT and various kinds of technology. The other thing which we are also seeing, the SaaS is democratizing use of software. I mean, to a large extent, software wasn't as democratized till SaaS came, or a SaaS kind of solutions came here. And we're seeing significant amount of democratization adoption because of SaaS. So you see the technology shifts. So this is the technology world, nothing to do with the workplace. But the technology world is galloping ahead. And once we see that where's the sweet spot between how the technology world is moving ahead and how that can be relevant for the workplace or how we work, is where probably my next question would be. That from bits to bytes, is the workplaces and the work formats really catching the kind of trend? And therefore, to CTS, first to you and then to Pinny, that what are the key elements, having spoken about the kind of technology impact on workplace, what are the key elements in the workplace experience and service that you feel that digitization can play impact on the business, on people and experience?
Okay, thank you. I think some of these aspects were touched upon in the previous conversations, both by Pinny and me as well. See, you just shared the interesting data points, how digitization and technology is actually exploding, and the adoption is becoming larger day by day. So at the social space, we are all now used to managing our requirements through technology. For every conceivable requirement, we have an app today, and all of us are dependent on that. So if we are getting used to the better productivity, efficiency, and the experience of technology in our social space and personal space, and you expect me to come and work at a workplace where things are still antique and driven manual, do you think that I'll be a happy employee? It can't be, right? It's a huge dichotomy that we are talking about. So obviously the need is to give the similar kind of ease of use and access and the ability to do things the way you expect. That's the word of democratization that I'm using, that in the sense you have the access, but you want certain things to be done as it is most convenient to you. So that flexibility would need to be offered. So this is another requirement that I'm bringing in before I come to the key elements that I see. And the third, do you think I will be happy if you give me 50 apps to look for each requirement separately? I don't think I will be happy. I'm looking at one, mother of all apps or super app where I can go and everything can be serviced from there, right? This is, the kind of enabled environment through technology that we are looking at. Now, at the workplace, the experience is pervading in multiple areas, right from the time I apply to join an organization till I separate that entire life cycle. I have multiple interfaces, multiple requirements, multiple actions that I'm required to do within the organization's requirements and the job role that I have to play. So am I being enabled in the right way with the right tools, and how is that contributing to my overall experience? That is one major element. Second, if I contextualize and narrow the focus down to what we are discussing today, that the workplace in a physical form, how the facilities, how the support that I need at the workplace, various smaller elements, but having huge impact in my experience and my productivity. Something like booking a meeting room or facilitating my visitor, getting my basic stationery or a computer peripheral or any small issue that I face at my work desk, can that all be solved without my having to speak to people, send mails, visit somebody, or having to go through multiple process documents or multiple apps which are available to me? So the key element that I'm saying is, one is the overall experience which meets all my requirements at one place and enabled in a efficient manner where I as an employee am not required to spend my efforts and energies to receive that experience. So this is, I think, the common experience aspect that will contribute to a positive outcome.
Thank you, CTS. Great ideas, great thoughts, and clearly uh, it keeps makes us think now. So, Pinny, I mean, your perspective on this subject, how do you see that the kind of relevant areas where technology could shape the future of work and workplace.
Thank you, Parikshit. And thank you, CT. I think you touched some of the very relevant points. So the most overused word today is hybrid, and nobody really knows what it means. I think everybody's just using it, and I have often been joking, is it a fashion to use hybrid? Do you know, it's become a fashionable name with no meaning, or it doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. So I think let's look at it from a perspective of what the pandemic has really done. It's accelerated the adoption of technology, digitization. And what has it done to us as the workforce? It's accelerated the flexibility and productivity outside office. Many years ago, it used to be either you had to have a license to work outside the office, you were not allowed to take your equipment out from the office, and there was nothing known as you can work from anywhere. Today, everybody's working from the plane to the car to the office to home. I mean, sitting in bed, sitting at a table, whatever you choose. So I think technology is really going to be supportive because that's going to be the norm. It's not going away. The ease of it, which CT brought, that it should be in one hub. We cannot have multiple tools and multiple apps, or to say I want to sort of ask for a coffee. I have to pick up another gadget to order that. So it must be simplified. I think innovation is going that way. Simplify the tool to bring ease to the employee. The user must have the comfort, then only they'll adopt that tool. Otherwise, we'll have multiple tools and they'll all be lying around. I'll just, on a lighter side, when I saw the HoloLens first time, I was really fascinated. And I thought, will people use it? It's really far-fetched. But today it's like a young kid will ask you, oh, HoloLens, of course I know about it. And I know how to use it. So I think, the generations are going to ask for things. And I think the workplace will have to also become hybrid. You will have to create a collaborative, meaningful employee connection. If there's no meaning, people are going to wonder why I'm coming to work. Because anyway, I can do whatever I have to away from my work desk or from my workplace. The role of workplace is going to be shifting from more intentional work setting, defined by its ability to bring people, teams together for a productive discussion. Otherwise, there's no point. I come to the office and I'm just coming to sit on the laptop, which I could do at home. Why do I want to come? How does technology encourage me to come? One, it makes my life easy. I have everything on one tablet, I can just use it and I get to where I want. And then I have a meaningful day with my discussions, with meeting people for the right reasons. And that is going to actually drive how we'll build our workplaces as we go forward. Because it's not going to be the 100% occupancy. You have 2,000 employees, you're going to build 2,010 seats. No, no, no. That's not going to be the world. The world is going to move to how you're working. What is your work? What does it require? And what can a workspace facilitate to make you productive enough so that you are actually attracted to come there and not just come there because it's a tick in the box. So I think, we'll have to be really, I feel hybrid will lead to consumer-oriented offices. It'll create differentiated offices for employees, for work, and for our customer interactions. How do we connect that? The old days of video, we are talking now to so many people on our screens. How is it going to become easier? How is, like everybody says, the globe is a smaller place because we can just go there. Max would be 24 hours from one end of the planet to the other end. Travel time has reduced, interactions have reduced. So how do we really get technology to still be human, still keep that element of feeling, emotion, empathy, passion in it, and still drive innovation in a way that everybody's comfortable?
Excellent thoughts, Pinny, like always. So I heard, I think, some really outstanding thoughts around human experience. I heard about CT talking about engaging people in a manner that they don't think that there's a burden by using technology, mother of all apps, in his words. I also heard about the fact that which Pinny mentioned, which is absolutely to the point, that what could we do differently to get the people back to work? Because they are able to do most of the things that they otherwise would have done at work. So is there anything that we can make them come to work? And I think that's a great question. And that's a great point that probably we need to think, and the whole community needs to really ponder. And I think to lighten the conversation, I think the millennials say FOMO, fear of missing out. I'm not going to go to work, and what am I going to miss on, right? So excite that and build a community where probably not just the services, not just ease of use, but also it's like a community, like you have a social media community, you have a community where it's chatting that, hey, you guys know that we're ordering pizza this afternoon, would you like to join? So maybe a good coffee and a pizza, and with some of your good friends from some of the other functions, could really incentivize you to come to work, other than just making sure that you're just coming in there or driving into the office after a not so exciting traffic, correct? Or the kind of problems that we have on Indian roads. But it's that little incentive of catching up and having that pizza with over a coffee is probably what's driving. But and the digital technologies can foster that. So how do we really do that? And I think that's a great view in yours and CT, your thoughts. Makes me now start thinking a few other things that I need to think with my team. But having said that, we're getting a series of questions, exciting questions. My colleagues would really put them in the cluster. Before I go to the next topic, I'd just like to add a few thoughts which I have. I kind of come from the technology world, 19, 20 years in the technology world, and then another 20, 15 odd in the services world or the service industry. And one of the things which I have, and not only this is not a question which I've heard in India, but I've heard across Asia Pacific, is great thoughts, great ideas. We love to do it, but where's the money? Okay, how do I really accomplish all that? I want to do that, but how do I really align my finance folks? How do I make sure that it sits as a part of the budget and it doesn't get shut down? Okay, this is a classical question which I've heard till 2019. Probably the question is less muted now because I think the C-suite um, uh, understands and appreciates how technology is going to be a permanent element in all facets of, and probably not as difficult as it used to be in 2019, but yet. Uh, Therefore, I would like from both of you, CT to you first and Pinny to you later, as to you work in large organizations, and I'm not really getting on to the exact details of what you go through, but this whole conundrum, if I may use that word, between something which is great and what we wish to do it, but then how do we connect the dot? Because somebody has to allocate some fund to get this. Uh, uh, in large organizations, I know, especially where leaders are very forward-looking, iconic, the battle is not as difficult. But where isn't? I've always come across this question. So let me put this question, CT, for you. But how do you perceive that the investment in workplace, not necessarily only on technology, but upgrading workplaces, making workplaces more contextual to the millennials and how the new work formats would evolve, and technology would find resonance within your organization, and especially with our finance, the head of finance. And are there therefore enough incentives and compelling factors to really reconsider what would traditionally be a pushback? What's your take on that?
Very interesting question. And I think this question has been there for many years again. We have always heard this one question being raised in various seminars and discussions, right? And it will continue to remain so. Because at the end of the day, every organization has priorities, and the priorities are decided based on the value. What is the outcome? What the value outcome from what you want, right? So investments, by and large, as I mentioned earlier as well, initial thought is how do we enhance our product? How do we enhance our marketing efforts? How do we enhance our market reach? So investments would get more support, and the priority in the list, top of the priority, will be there. But having said that, with the evolving time we have seen, businesses also realize the need for ensuring that you cannot always keep pushing the teeth. The tail also need to move, right? If I may use that analogy, right? So you also need to make the whole structure capable of what you want to achieve in the market, right? So the short answer to what your big question, and this question, as I mentioned, has always been there, is that are we able to clearly demonstrate what is the value outcome from what we want to do? Then the investment will clearly be there. Whether it is a small organization or large organization, the operating framework, parameters, everything is the same, that everyone looks at what is your margin, what is your EBITDA, and what is your PAT, right? So within that framework, what we want to do in terms of enhancing the workplace by implementing technology tools, adopting some solutions which can improve the experience and have better engagement, better productivity, better employee retention. Those are the value outcomes that we should look at. And if that is clearly presented, I'm sure, it will always get the right attention. Now, let's take the current example that when we moved into the remote work, compelled by the COVID pandemic, which none of us was prepared for, there was a huge requirement of enabling people to work away from the workplace. Whether it was, purchasing laptops and giving to people, enabling them broadband connectivity, dongles, creating an app where everyday employees can actually come and say what their health status is. All that got implemented, the money came, because obviously there was a value quotient, there was a value output which was seen, right? So when we look at creating the larger technology framework for the workplace, what we really need to drive at is what value is it adding to the business? How the business can reap positive outcomes if that is implemented. I can give another example that many years back when I was driving one of the projects initially for integration of global travel. And at that time, tools were also not available, which could connect everybody across the globe and use one platform for travel. I was asked this question, it's happening now over the Excel sheet, what's the problem, right? But when later it got implemented and everyone was able to see the dashboards which shows what their travel budget is, what their spend is, what is the pattern of the travel, which area people are going, is that the area for focus in terms of a market expansion. And added to that was wherever our employees are going, their safety is being taken care because we know where they are. So that is the value outcome, and the money got invested. And this I'm talking about many years back. Today we have multiple travel solution platforms available I'm talking about 2006-07 kind of a period when it was quite a difficult task to convince, people to actually spend money on these aspects. So in summary, it is not difficult. What we want to do needs to be clearly spelled out, clearly shown as to what the value outcome is, and then the support will be available. Back to you and Pinny. Thank you.
Yeah. So Pinny, your thoughts, please.
I always spin the coin on its head. Is it really a choice today? I mean, with the pandemic, you take the most simple thing, a touchless door. You don't want to touch anything. The auto door costs XXX. Your elevator, you don't want to touch the buttons. You want it to be an auto. So I don't know whether we are really going to have a choice to say that my CFO is going to say that I don't have the funding to facilitate any of the tools that are going to enhance wellness, health, or facilitate an ease for the employee to be productive. So I really would be doubtful on that. I feel, yes, we can't suddenly sort of upgrade and have all the stuff at one time. We'll have to prioritize, get some prioritization done. But I don't think there's going to be very much of a choice because there's a talent crunch. There is a talent hunt by everybody. You leave today, you have 2 jobs already standing by. So are companies or organizations going to risk that? They are going to have to balance how they're going to allocate funds for what. Yes, I agree with you, CT, that revenue versus spend, you have to be cautious. No business can just wildly spend millions of dollars, just because they want to enhance the workplace. But I think a stepped approach, a thoughtful prioritization on what is really important and how does that translate into my real use of the revenue that we generate will really drive this thinking and the business cases going forward.
Interesting. So if I again draw the common points that both of you were talking about, is the first part which CT talked about is the fact that it depends on how you are able to convey the value and the impact of that investment uh, as far as your C-suite approval is concerned. So explain them the impact, explain them the value it brings, explain them why it is essential, probably a detailed deep dive on the investment versus return, or as we call it in the corporate world, the business case. If that is scripted correctly, if it is scripted with data and facts, probably it is not so much of a challenge. That's what I heard. And I heard Pinny say that there are certain things which you don't need to explain, as far as things like wellness, employee um, workplace experience, which is sometimes not very empirical in terms of how they bring an impact. But organizations progressively, given the fact that, and I get back to the point of the millennials, that the choices, the preferences that the younger employees have, or the kind of options that they exercise, is making organizations probably uh, look at these investments without uh, tagging on a benefit element. So certain things of what I can understand both of you saying, that you would have to do it, given where we are, given the fact that we are in the midst of a pandemic or an endemic, if that's how WHO calls it now. There is no other choice. So I think the audience and I get at least a better understanding of how this works in organizations. I think we are coming to the close of, and I see quite a few questions. So obviously I'm not closing the session. Deepak is going to take over from me. Minimon is going to take over from me. And but Minimon, if you could probably pick up a few questions that you have on your panel.
Thank you, Parikshit.
Yeah.
Moving forward to the last section, due to shortage of time, we'll be taking up one question. So the question is from Mr. Amal Jaiswal. And the question is that how can companies quantify the benefit of these workspace experience platforms before actually, adopting to these technologies? So I would request Mr. CTS to comment on this question.
Thank you, Minimon. So, it's a tricky situation that you cannot always quantify the outcomes before you actually implement and experience the output from what you have implemented, right? We can only make assumptions, and to make assumptions, you have, inputs available from what that solution has actually done in some other location, what that solution's functionalities and capabilities are in line with what you want to do, right? Then certainly, like for example, if we say, let's take a very, very, very simple example of workplace capacity management. Which is, if you do not have a proper technology driven tool to actually manage well, you will always find yourself either spending more creating excess capacity or not having adequate capacity, and thereby impacting the productivity of the people you have. So it is easily quantifiable, right? With the investment that you're required to do to create and leave it unutilized, which is actually an impact to your bottom line, or the other way around as well. So what solution or tool you want to implement, how that will play out in your business environment. And there is no one, size fits solution for everybody here. Each business has specific unique requirements, and it need to be evaluated within those parameters as applicable to your respective businesses. Then create your business. So there are no standard standard quantities. You can certainly have some cost benefits, some time, saving metrics to show that, let's say, if somebody is actually doing something manually, let's say, take the example again back to, since we are talking about workplace and workplace experience, let's take the example of travel request again. If I'm required to fill in an Excel sheet, then send it to somebody, then make a call, then follow up, I'm spending 30 minutes to 1 hour of my productive time just to get one travel organized for me. And if I have a tool where I simply enter the details, it gets delivered to all the required stakeholders to manage that, my approver, my travel partner, my travel team, my finance to approve my forex and etc. And it gets done in less than 15 to 20 minutes. So it's a productivity element there, right? So everything can be quantified. We need to put it in context to what we are trying to do and get the right measures and the quantities which can work well for your business case. Back to you, Pinny Mann.
Yeah, I would request Pinny to just add a few more thoughts, because we are really running short of time. Maybe Pinny, on this interesting question, you could add
Yeah, thank you. Parikshit, I am actually absolutely agreeing with CT. Everything can be quantified, and I think the businesses will also be wearing different hats now, thinking differently. Earlier, every CFO was more on how much they can save and how much they can put back into their kitties and showcase revenue in a different way. Today, I think those purse strings have opened, and they have probably been forced to open because there are limited choices left. If you want, I'll take a very simple example. If your employees are falling sick and taking so many days of sick leave, your productivity anyway is getting lost. So if you want your employees to be healthy, well, there are multiple things we'll have to do in our offerings in the office, and from your simple, ease of coming to work and staying healthy and then being productive. So I think it's an interesting discussion, but there are many connotations to that.
Yeah,
thank you,
thank you. Thank you, Pinny. And both of you, I think, are saying the same thing, and be the fact that there are different ways of expression. And I'll add that last bit, or may I call it my last word on this. At the end of the day, like many other things in business, is the conviction of the proposal. Nothing is impossible in an organization if the person who's bringing forward the proposal for an investment has done his or her homework and is fully convinced that it's going to add value to the organization, to the employees, and larger stakeholders. And I think that is probably the best way to finish it. I really thank CT, Pinny, for your wonderful thoughts and insights. And over to you, Pinny Mann and Sakshi, for your closing points.
Thank you, Parikshit. I would also like to thank everybody present on the call to participate in this, and thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We had overshot the time, but I think wish you all a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.